Hello everyone and welcome to your English class. In our lesson today, we will continue with our unit which is titled You've Got Mail. Our lesson today is the first part from the reading lesson in your books, page 38 and 39. All you need for the lesson today is your books, page 38 and 39, a sheet of paper and a pen to take down your notes. So let's get started. We'll start from your books on page 102, which is exercise L. It was your homework. Here, we're having certain situations. You will choose for each situation the suitable mean of communication. You're having these options: email, letter, cell phone, landline, telegraph, text messages, and face-to-face. You listen to the situation and choose the suitable mean of communication. Let's listen together.
You are at the mall. Your friend hasn't turned up and it's getting late. You want to go home, so you need to get in touch with your brother to get a lift home.
Okay, so what is the suitable mean of communication that you can use in here? We can choose any of them. A cell phone, I can use my cell phone. I can text him, or a landline. Not the cell phone, the landline, the one that is attached to the wall. How about the second situation in here? Which means of communication is the best? Let's listen.
Fahd is at work. He wants to let his family know that he is going to be late, but he can't use his cell phone and someone else is using the phone in the office.
So in here, he can't use the cell phone or the landline. What are the other options that he can use? Maybe he can text them, text message, sending a text, or sending them an email. So you can choose any one of these. The following, here, which mean of communication is the best?
You are in the country. There is no internet connection and your cell phone is not working. You want to let your family know that you will be returning by train the next day.
So in here, we don't have no internet. The internet is not an option. So you can't use your cell phone, you can't use the internet. What can you use? You can use the telegraph, or you can use letter, or maybe a landline. We don't use, with landlines, we don't use the internet. The following in here, choose the suitable means of communication.
You are upset with your friend and you need to talk to her about it. You don't like it when your friends talk to other people about you and your plans.
How about if you are mad or upset at a friend? Are you going to call, text, or send a letter? Here I have chosen to face-to-face. I will meet him or her face-to-face. I will call him or her by the cell phone, or I will just send a text message. More informal ways for communication. Okay, for our lesson today, by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to read an article. Also, you will be able to use some new vocabulary, new words, and by the end of the lesson, you will be able to answer some questions on the reading text. So let's get started on your books, page 38 and 39. At the beginning in here, I will ask you this question. Think about a way of communication. We will take only one of them. What are the advantages and the disadvantages? The things that are so good about it and the thing that is not so good. Which one would you choose? Let's choose email, for example. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? The good side about the email that I can write everything, a lengthy or a very long email or message. Also, I can as well attach photos, pictures, maybe a document. You can add everything. However, the worst thing, or let's say the disadvantage, this thing that is not so good about it, is that it takes a long time. It takes people long time to reply to emails. It is not instant at the moment. How about calling, texting, and maybe face-to-face communication? What's wrong with these means of communication? What is so good and what is wrong with them? Okay, speaking about the means of communication, we're going to speak about the history. Can you think about old means of communication? Before the internet, before landline, what did people use to communicate with each other? I have made my own research and found out that people used they use smoke. Fire, smoke, then they will use the smoke. It goes up, then it will send messages far away. Also, we're having birds, hummingbirds. These birds are going to carry letters from one place to the other. They will transport them. We're having as well as the idea of letters, writing letters, then to the mailbox, sending them. However, these will take long days, maybe weeks or months. Then we're having the instant, which is the telegraph. It used the beeps, short messages that are going to be sent, such a code, a kind of a code. Then we came into the idea of the internet, cell phones, emails, and others. Then, nowadays, the most common one is the idea of text messages. At the moment, once you click send, the other one is going to receive it and read it. And I believe that you can come up with many others, maybe fire, we're having the Morse code, which is the telegraph, and many, many others. Okay, now in your books, page 38 and 39, I want you to scan the two pictures, 38 and 39, and find the answers for the following questions. What is the title for the whole text? You will find it on the top of page 38. It is actually From Smoke Signals to Email. So the history, the timeline, smoke signals to email, keeping in touch. How many paragraphs? Count them, starting from the whole page 38. They are actually 5 paragraphs. We're having 5 paragraphs. What do the pictures show? At the beginning here, first is a drum, which you're going to, it gives you a sound. And the other one, we're having a man lighting fire, and you can notice the smoke as well. Okay, so these they are. We're going to take these one by one, and each time you will come up with the main idea in the paragraph. Listen, just the general idea, no details, just the general idea. Let's listen to the first one, and you will tell what is the main idea of this paragraph. What are we about to read about? Let's listen.
From smoke signals to email, keeping in touch. From the Stone Age to the present, people have shown a desire to send messages to one another over long distances.
Okay, so the first or the introductory lines is about to tell us what the whole text is going to be about. So we are going to speak about the history of communication, starting from smoke until today's let's say mean of communication, which is email. So we're going to trace back the history of communication. Let's continue with the first paragraph. In here, it starts in ancient times. What is the main idea of this paragraph? Listen and tell.
In ancient times, according to one story, a chain of fires on mountain tops was used to relate the news of the fall of Troy to people in Greece. In the past, native people in the Americas used smoke from fires to transmit messages. They developed a code, in which certain combinations of smoke rising had special meanings. For example, 2 parallel columns of smoke indicated the successful return of a war party.
So in here, what does it tell us? This paragraph is about how in ancient times, in ancient times, they communicated with each other. No telephone in that time. So they used fire and smoke, and they had their own code. When we're having 2 rings of smoke, it means that we're having a returning war party, and they have won the war. So just as if we're having the code in writing, they had it using smoke. So we're speaking about the idea of ancient times. How about the following paragraph number 2? In paragraph number 2, it starts with ancient Greeks. Listen and tell what is the main idea of the paragraph. Let's listen.
The ancient Greeks established lines of signal towers at mountain tops. At each one, a large fire was lit to transmit a signal to the next tower, and in this way, information was passed on through the land. Also, almost anything that makes a noise has been used for signaling. A kind of drum talk is still used in Central Africa today, although few who are not natives have been able to understand it. The sender uses a drum that can produce a high or low tone. Because the local dialect alternates in these tones, the sender is able to simulate speech with the drums.
So in here, the second paragraph is about, in ancient Greek, they used 2 ways to communicate. The first one is about using fire and smoke. The smoke is going to rise to send messages to a large area of land. And also, they have used drums. Why the drums? Because it has higher sound, and the sound is going to spread into a larger area. And these drums are still used where? In Central Africa. People in these countries, they use it. And when they are using the drums, they are having higher and lower tones, which is going to be the code for speaking. Each tone is having for a different word. The following, paragraph number 3, here in modern times. What is the main idea of this paragraph? Let's listen.
In modern times, people have communicated by letter, telegraph, and telephone. But no one method has become as widespread as quickly as the use of email. The first email message took place in 1971, and according to its sender, Ray Tomlinson, it was probably the following: QWERTYUIOP. What was significant about that? Nothing really. This is just the top row of keys on an English-language keyboard. Tomlinson was just testing out the system and using a nonsense message. He had no concept that he was going to start a revolution in communication.
So, in modern times, what means of communication have we used? We're actually using letters, then the development of telephone or landline phones, then we're having the telegraph, and nothing is as widespread all over the world as we're having email. Who was the first? We're speaking here about the first who used email. He was Tomlinson, and it came by a chance. He was trying to make a communication between people, and the first email was the first row of the keyboard. You can find it on your keyboard. It is not a message, it was nonsense, it was nothing. And so in here, the beginning of the first email, or the beginning of the revolution of the email. How about the following paragraph? Number 4, what is the main idea in this paragraph? Let's listen together.
Tomlinson was one of a group of scientists who were working on developing better computers. The scientists at his site were able to send a message to a mailbox on the computer on their site. Other scientists could view the messages in the mailbox, but there were other computers at other sites where scientists were working on the same project. Tomlinson's idea was to figure out a way to deliver messages to mailboxes on those remote computers. He used the @ sign to identify messages that were headed out of the local machine to the more distant ones. That was the start of the emailing systems that we still use today.
So this paragraph is about how it was and why it was created. Why do we have email? We're having actually Tomlinson. He was working on a project with a group of scientists. Then they are actually connected. Each one of them is on his computer. They want to send files amongst them. Some of the scientists are actually not within the same room. They are in other sites, maybe other cities. And he wants to send files and documents to those people. And what did he do? He tried to use the @ sign, and you can notice it in here, the @ sign, to send an email from one computer and to the other, from his computer to other people's computer. And while he was trying, he was successful doing that. The last paragraph, number 5. What is the main idea of this paragraph? Let's listen together.
At first, the number of people on email was small, but by the end of the 20th century, there were 263 million email boxes. In the 21st century, that figure has grown to over 4 billion, and the functions of email services in the future will become more and more diversified. And text messaging on cell phones is also increasing, so people can, in effect, be in constant touch with people who are long distances away.
So the last paragraph, usually the concluding paragraph, is telling us how widespread the email is, and we are having an introduction to the idea of text messages. So we're saying that email is widespread all over the world, and we're having the introduction of text messages. So all over the world, we're having millions of people are using email, and nowadays the idea of texting is going viral. Everyone is using text messages. Okay, we have spoken about the idea of transmitting. What do we mean when I say transmit? Transmit, it starts with trans. When we're saying trans is to send them or the information from one place to the other. Transmitting, sending from one place to the other. And what is telling us that we are sending things across? It is actually here the beginner or the prefix, which is trans. Here, trans, it gives you the sense that we are sending something across from one place to the other. Like the words transport, to carry people across from one place to the other. Also, transatlantic, moving people or moving from through the Atlantic, across the Atlantic. And also, transcend, to climb across. Trans, it means across or moving from one place to the other. And you can come with many other examples. Okay. Some of the fun facts that we're having in here is the Morse code. Morse code is, what is based on Morse code is actually the telegraph. What does it use? Here we're having Morse code. It sends messages using rhythm. Rhythm, it means just like the sound. So the basic idea is actually from the drums, the old ones. We're having letters, numbers, punctuations, and they are all represented by a combination of sounds and pulses referred as the dots and the dashes. So the language is all about dots and dashes. You can notice them in here, a dot and a dash. And each one symbolizes a letter or a number. Even full stops, commas, question marks are having their own symbols. It was created by Samuel Morse in the 1840s and was widely used for radio communication in the 19th and the 20th century. Widely used for radio communication for ships. Those who will go deep in the ocean, they will use it to send SOS messages or danger messages. How about the other one, which is you are more familiar with, which is the telephone. Who invented the telephone? He is Alexander Graham Bell. He was the inventor of the telephone. He was actually awarded the first US patent for the telephone in 1879, so in the 19th century. Also, ironically, he himself said, it has been said that he said no to have a telephone in his study because it disturbed him and disturbed his research. So he invented it, however, he didn't use it because he said it is disturbing for him. What do you think? How do you think he will react if he had a cell phone nowadays? Maybe he won't use it anymore. Okay, let's complete these sentences in your book's page 39. Complete the following sentences from your understanding of the reading. People have shown a need to communicate with one another since starting from when? The 20th century? No, older, ancient ages. Maybe we can say Stone Age. When Native Americans saw 2 columns of smoke, we're having 2 columns of smoke. What does it mean? It has a meaning, which is they know that the war party was returning and it was a successful one. That we're having a party of war coming and they are winning. They have won the war. How about number 3? Although drums are used in Central Africa today to communicate messages, only few non-natives, few people who are not from Central Africa, can understand the drum language. So we can't understand it. Very few people can understand it if you are not from Central Africa. Number 4, when Tomlinson sent his first message, he was not thinking of, he sent the first line or row of the keyboard. He didn't know that he is about to start a revolution in communication. Revolution, it is about to change the word or to change the history. He had changed everything in communication. Although email only began in the 1970s, at the beginning, or let's say in the 20th century, by the end of the 20th century, how many do we have using the email? There were 263 million email boxes. So less than 100 years and we're having more than 200 million people using email. Number 6, nowadays, millions of people are used to do what? They are used to being in constant touch with people who are long distances away. Think about yourself. Can you resist the idea of texting or sending instant messages? No, we can't do this because we want to communicate with others at the moment. That's why we're having the idea of texting. We are having texting. Okay, for your homework, I want you to come up with an answer for this one. How do you communicate with different people? Choose different people, come up with 2. How do you communicate with your friend? And how do you communicate with your parents? You will use 2 different means of communication. Do you use always face-to-face, phone call, audio call, video call? Different people, different way for communicating. Okay? I guess that is it for the lesson today, and thank you so much for your time.